Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of NasCard Radio. This is episode number 118 of NasCard Radio. We're trading cards and racing meet. I'm your pal Val, and with me is the amazing Jason. Jason, how are you?
I'm doing well.
And then the man, the myth, the legend, PSA and White Castle Hall of Famer, Logan. How are you?
I'm feeling price guidey.
Gotcha. Well, I want to thank our sponsor, Panini America, and also thanks to new follower James Strout. Got a great show for everybody today. We're going to do a race recap of the Xfinity Cup race and F1 race. Dr. Beckett's going to join us today for a little chat about NASCAR racing cards. And then we'll finish up the show with King's Court. So, gentlemen, let's get into it. The Camping World Truck Series, they were off last week. There is only one more race until the final race in Phoenix. That's going to be at Homestead Miami Speedway, the Baptist Health 200, but that's going to be October 22nd. So we still have another week. The season's coming down. I can't believe it. The season's getting ready to end here in a few weeks.
It's gone by quick, man. Seems like just yesterday we were talking about who was going to win the Daytona 500.
Yeah. So that race in Miami Homestead will get the final four. Right now, Ty Majeski is the only one who's locked in. Moving over to the Xfinity Series. That was the 41st annual drive for the QR250 presented by Blue Cross Blue Shield of North Carolina. That was Saturday, October 8th at Charlotte Motor Speedway road course. AJ Allmendinger was our winner. Highest finishing rookie was Sheldon Creed at position 16. With that, AJ Allmendinger advances to the round of 8.
Of course, y'all know who I wanted to win.
Oh, I know.
Ty freaking Gibbs. He tried, but just wasn't in the card. It wasn't in the cards.
I love it. Okay.
He won't be in the cards. Well, he might be. You never know.
Well, we've talked about his cards quite a bit, but we'll do a quick recap of those. Let me throw that up on the screen here. 2007 is his rookie year, first year cards. We have Press Pass Premium in 2007, 2000 Press Pass Stealth. There's a regular version and a chrome version, as you can see there on the top left. There's also the Maximum Access. That's that card on the bottom. That's an insert. There's the VIP. That's the one in the middle. 2007. A few base cards in 2007. And then you can see the one to the bottom, the 2007 Tracks base with parallels. And then the 2007 Wheels American Thunder autograph to the right. I don't know. I'm thinking AJ Allmendinger, he might be, I'm figuring him or Noah Gruskin for the championship this year.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's locked in. Ty freaking Gibbs is locked in. Who else is locked in? I'm trying to remember who all is locked into the so far for this next round. But yeah, Ty freaking Gibbs, he's still my choice, but he's kind of been on a cold streak. He's been up there, but he just hasn't closed the deal. But yeah, I agree with you, Val. I think it's either going to be Allmendinger or Gregson. I think one of those two guys is going to get it because Allmendinger is he's on fire hot right now.
I'm sure he would like to get a championship before he moves up to the Cup.
Mm-hmm.
And then also our highest finishing rookie was Sheldon Creed. And for that all you need to know is 2021 Panini Chronicles.
And
Pretty
buttload.
much. Yeah. I think it's officially, like you said, a buttload. We need to try opening some 21 Chronicles and see if we can open a pack without getting a Sheldon Creed. So,
Yeah, good luck with that.
also in 2021 Panini Prism has the variation on that with him holding a trophy, as well as all the parallels and signatures, autographs, and also in 2021 National Treasure. So a lot of Sheldon Creed cards in 2021 for his rookie year.
So I have a question about that race. Did you guys see the number 18 Richmar Florist car? It was driven by James Davison. He finished fourth. So
Oh,
kudos to him, and shout out to our friends at Richmar Florist. It
yeah, that's awesome. Great. That's a great finish.
was a great finish. And one more thing, real quick. Next week, I know you're getting ready to talk about the next week's race, but next week, Haley Deegan.
Yes, next race number 30. 3 more until they go to Phoenix, and that's going to be at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. That's the Alsco Uniforms 302, and that's this Saturday, October 15th at 3 p.m. Stages for at Xfinity Las Vegas Motor Speedway. End of lap 45, end of lap 90, end of lap 201. Moving over. Yes.
Predictions, real quick. Where's Haley finish next week?
I think in the 20s.
I was
I'm
going
going
to
to
say
say 19th. Okay. I'll go out on a limb and say 17th.
I just think that for her first shot, she's not running, I don't think, a powerhouse team's car. So I think it's just go out there, run, and bring back the car in one piece.
Let's hope she's not Danica.
one piece so they can strip it and sell it for parts.
Yeah,
Auction
all the sheet
for
metal will be
parts.
on cards.
Yeah.
Coming
Well,
to a trading card near you.
well, that's part of the reasons why we don't have a lot of Panini
Yeah.
sheet metal is because Gray took great care of the car.
He did.
So there were hardly any sheet metal available for sale. So
Well, it's funny, and I know we have things to do, but real quick, I called, and I can't remember who it was. I called his race team's office to say, hey, if something happens, what are you going to do? We'd like to buy some. And he kind of chuckled. He's like, well, hopefully we're not able to sell anything because the car is in good shape. And it's like, yeah, but that's not what everybody else wants, like. So I'll always remember that because it was interesting, the perspectives that each side has.
yeah, I tried to I called the shop as well and was looking for sheet metal. The Racing Warehouse, what we've talked about before on the show, they did have a rear end of the car. I missed it by, I don't know, 10 minutes or something. And then I did get a competitor's panel, but I sent it to Panini. So I figured it needed to go back to the mothership. So moving over to the Cup Series. That was race number 32, and that was the 63rd annual Bank of America Roval 400. That was Sunday, October 9th at Charlotte Motor Speedway Road Course. Easy for me to say. Our winner was Christopher Bell, and highest finisher rookie was Austin Cindric at position 21. Now, I know Christopher Bell drove that car, but his crew chief, he needs to get a big portion of that win.
Yeah, his crew chief won the race for him, making that call with that caution that came out several laps before the end. And he was like one of the only ones that came in. It's like we were surprised that not more folks came in, but he came in at the right time, and it worked out for him perfectly.
Yeah, that with like 5 laps to go, that sign came off, or somebody had hit it, and it went on to the track, so they had to throw the caution. Which, to the dismay of Chase Elliott, who had like a 4-second lead, so all that for nothing, and then Christopher Bell gets the win there. So
Yeah, he wasn't last, but because Alex Bowman's last, but he was last of the drivers that are driving. Yeah, he had to
yeah,
win.
they went in one of the turns and Reddick hit him, and so they both tried to get the same real estate, which didn't work out well for Chase Elliott. But we've talked about Christopher Bell before. I think did he get his first win this year? Was it last
No, it
year?
wasn't this year.
But I know I guess we talked about him before.
He's won. He's won this year earlier.
Yeah. Oh, wrong one. That one.
There you go.
2016 Panini certified. With the
Shocker.
base card there. What's that?
Shocker.
Yeah, I knew you were gonna say that. With all these years, Jason's tired of hearing about 2016 certified, but this is one of the reasons why 2016 certified base card there, and you'll see the autographs. Prism only signatures, which you'll see there, which is the red, white, and blue version, and then Torque only autographs as well. No base, only base card. 2016 Panini certified.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yep.
It's crazy. Like I do these little overlays for us, and I kind of just grab the portraits and put them in. I don't pay too much attention. I just try to get them done. But I'm looking at it now as we're talking, and I know he's 27, 28 years old, but he looks 12. I mean, especially that picture right there, he looks so young, but I don't know.
They all are now. It's just
Yeah.
like, look at Ty freaking Gibbs. He's only 19.
Yeah. And then also Cindric, 2018 Panini certified. He's in the Donruss Phenoms. Panini Prism scripted signatures, Victory Lane base, as well as Victory Lane signatures. So that's it for him. Next race number 33, 3 more till Phoenix, and it's going to be at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, the South Point 400, Sunday, October 16th at 2:30 p.m. Stages for that race are going to be end of lap 80, end of lap 165, and end of lap 267.
So with this race, that set the field of 8. And I was looking at the different teams that are going to be in this next round. And it's just kind of like the season has gone. It's, there's been a lot of parity. So you've got 2 Gibbs cars, you've got 2 Hendrick cars, 2 Penske cars, 1 Trackhouse, and 1 Stewart-Haas. So it's pretty much kind of even across the board for the most part. You don't have one team with all 4 of their drivers in there. So again, it's just, there's a lot of parity this year.
So cutting down to the final 4, Chase has got 31 points, which is the most, 20 points above the second place, Joey Logano. And then it gets really tight. So Logano's plus 11, Chastain plus 6, Bell plus 3, William Byron minus 3, Blaney minus 3, Hamlin minus 6, Chase Briscoe minus 9, which you get a point for every car you pass. So there's a lot of points and a lot of movement. So these last spaces are going to be, it's going to be really interesting here, these next 3 races. Must see TV.
Indeed.
Moving over to Formula One, they had a little race over there. That was the 2022 Japanese Grand Prix. That was Sunday, October 9th at the Suzuka Circuit in Suzuka City, Japan. That was on like at 1 o'clock in the morning, East Coast for us. I got to see them playing Uno during the rain delay. I did get to see some of that, but I didn't get to see the end of the. I got to see the beginning of the race, and then the red flag for 2 hours on my recording.
About that Uno.
I saw that. I loved it.
I got to see the whole race. At the time it was going on live, I was driving back from Bryant Denny Stadium watching Alabama almost get their butt kicked. but they somehow lucked out and won that game. But anyway, I recorded it and I added an extra hour and a half to my recording, and I got the race in. I actually got to see it. So thank goodness for that.
That's a good job. Our winner was Max Verstappen. And we've talked about Max quite a bit. He's having an amazing season with 12 wins now.
12 wins. He's one away from tying the all-time season win record of 13.
Well, I have a feeling he's going to tie it and break it.
I think he's going to break it. I'm going out on a very, very stout limb. Saying he's going to break it.
Well, I mean, I know, we started following F1 last year, and we talked about Lewis Hamilton and Verstappen winning, 90% of the races, 95% of the races. And then this year it's been pretty much all Max. So, but with his cards, he has a few cards before the 2020 Topps Chrome and Topps Now, 2016 Top Trumps, Grand Prix Heroes, and the 2018 Topps Trumps. And then you get into 2020, the Topps Now Formula One, which is a print run of 4,047. And then you get into the 2020 Topps Chrome Formula One with all of the cards in that set dedicated to winner and driver of the day. So there's 13 cards and one image variation in Chrome. And there's a ton of parallels. There's also a Sapphire edition to it. There's 2020 Dynasty. Also the F1 official stickers. There's 11 stickers in there. And then there's also the 2020 Topps Turbo Attacks Formula One, 12 cards and 3 limited edition cards with the bronze, silver, and gold versions. So and also with that win, he wins the championship.
Yeah, that's what I was just getting ready to talk about. On that last lap, of course, it was raining, and I like watching races in the rain anyway. But anyway, it was raining, and I think Max had already crossed the finish line, and you had Charles Leclerc and Sergio Perez going for second and third, and Charles Leclerc was in second. Well, he makes an excursion off the track and comes back on the track, and he was still able to keep his position. He was in second place. So after they crossed the finish line, F1 gave Charles Leclerc a 5-second penalty, which moved Sergio Perez up to second, which the way the points shook out, before that happened, if it had finished with Leclerc second and Perez third, Max was 1 point away from winning the championship. But when they changed those positions, Max wins the championship. Voila. Go figure.
Well, when you say that, second and third in the points championship is only separated by 1 point.
Yeah. So there you go. That 1 point decided that. And it's funny how that works out. It seems like every year when somebody's going for the championship, there's always some kind of weird thing that happens, maybe some kind of controversy, something weird that happens. And, it's like I said, it's controversial, but it is what it is. I mean, Max was going to win the championship anyway. There's no way anybody's going to knock him off this late in the season, but it just clinched it for him earlier. That's all it did.
So they are off this week, but they return to the States, the United States Grand Prix. And that's going to be Sunday, October 23rd at 3 p.m. That's going to be at the Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas.
Man, I would love to go to that race, but tickets for that are going to be expensive.
Not Formula One races.
Oh gosh, I bet it'd be a couple $1,000s for a ticket to try to find one now to go.
I thought somebody had a pair on one of the face group. How much were they? I can't remember now. If it was 800 and something for the two.
Oh, that's actually pretty good. It's a lot less than I thought.
Don't hold me to it. I don't know if they still have them left, but it'd be pretty cool to go.
It would be pretty cool to go. I've never seen that track. I think when I was in Dallas at the Dallas Car Show last year, was also the same weekend they had the race last year. But no, I take that back. That was the Cup race, and they had issues with rain. But I would love to go to that race.
So now that Max has won the championship, how do you think that affects his cards? Because he was so dominant this year, I know the diehards will still be watching, but I know the market is kind of weak right now, but I'm just curious to see, what do you guys think of, I want to say not investing, but picking up some Verstappens when you can find them for a good deal. Because I think long term, he's only starting to be in his stride. I think he's got a few more years ahead.
Go ahead, Jason. I'll let you talk about it first.
So my thoughts are there's a couple layers to this. I think he has already established himself to where, yes, there's upside, but it's not the upside that people might think where we had it 2 years ago. As always, buy stuff in the off season, not during the season. That's always going to be your best. But I would also argue, don't buy the 2020 and 2021 stuff, because I feel like so many people are into that it might be not like an overflow, because there's dynasty and stuff that's expensive, but it's out there. I would be looking for the Trump or Trump's card, like some of that stuff, because look at what we've seen with Lewis Hamilton. It's that old stuff that has really commanded the money. And granted, the Topps Chromes have too, but I think that is kind of its own little bubble within the F1 cards. I think that 2020, 2021 stuff is its own separate entity.
So Logan, I want to stop you and go to our next segment if we can.
Sure, go ahead.
We have somebody on the NasCard Radio newsmaker line here. Oh, very nice shirt. Welcome, Dr. Beckett, to NasCard Radio.
Great to be here, guys.
Yeah, welcome, man. We're glad you're here. I like that shirt.
It's not a one of one, but it's a good friend gave me one.
It's like a 1 of 30.
1 of 30, maybe. Okay. Oh, good.
Well, Logan, you want to jump in first?
Yeah. We've got some questions for you, Dr. Beckett. Let's see. I've got my notes somewhere. Should have had it up quicker. All right. So I got a question for you. And this pertains to when you guys first came out with the racing magazine. I know there were no credible established racing car prices when you guys began the racing magazine. What kind of process did you guys go through in gathering the pricing, and how difficult of a job was that?
Well, it was really simple for me because I didn't really participate in it. I had, I collected everything, and I probably had some, but we wound up hiring some guys, and we made extensive use of like regional correspondents and people around. It was, again, if you turn the clock back 25 or 30 years, it was pretty regional. I think it was the Southeast. Most of the shows were, North Carolina and below, I think. So we were hitting those same shows. And we had dedicated staff, and we had people helping out that were doing other sports, but you can't manufacture passion instantly for a sport if you didn't collect it. So we had to have people that were knowledgeable about NASCAR. And but when we did it, though, there were a bunch of sets coming out, and so we didn't like decide one day to do it and put a magazine out the next day. We really had a fair amount of lead time. And it was a team effort. And I probably was pretty far removed from the day-to-day pricing. I had some guys I trusted. And, when the hardest one of a price guide to do is the first one. After the first one, you get feedback and people say, hey, you really missed on that one. So, well, and when you're missing on a price guide, it's because we're analyzing the data that we have, but we don't have all the data. And so as we got more data and better sources, we were able to be more accurate so we got off the mark there, and we found out who were the better dealers in the country. And so it was a lot of fun. I mean, I enjoyed it because I wasn't as nose to the grindstone on that particular sport. I could enjoy it as a fan.
One thing that I noticed, or I didn't really collect at that time, but going back and looking through the other magazines, there are a few other price guides that I started like December of '89 up until that point, but it seemed like when Beckett started to produce a price guide that they just shut down. It wasn't even, did you guys hire them, or was there any communication with some of those other price guides?
Well, I mean, you've got to be careful. I mean, we're not going to plagiarize. They were doing stuff. There were some of them out there, again, very regional. We were a lot more national and international. And I will say this, thanks to a number of people within NASCAR, we had good entree and access to some of the drivers and teams and some of the leadership. And so that was helpful. But we were using some of the same sources. There were a few key dealers and I don't remember exactly now who they were, but they were, we were circulating around to the shows, even the specific NASCAR shows that were pretty much Charlotte area, or North Carolina was heavy, Daytona, I guess, anything in between there. There were some good shows, but it was a challenge. And like I said, we don't want to plagiarize, but if everybody's trying to do a price guide that's accurate, they're going to be having some similarities. But then as we really established a regular, we were really consistent in our approach and in our frequency. And so if we're coming out every month, we're going to get better and better. And I think we did. And so we weren't trying to, Val, I've said, I don't want to have a monopoly. I just want to be in first place. And so we weren't trying to drive anybody out of business, because again, it's a very relational sport, I think, where even the drivers are competitors, but they realize they're all in it together. I mean, there's probably a few renegades there, but most of them realize they need each other. They're not trying to wreck anybody for the most part. They just want to win.
No, I guess what I was saying is that it seemed like they had closed up shop before you guys really even were getting going. And plus, I mean, you guys had a bigger distribution channels, since racing was your fifth price guide. It was baseball, football, basketball, hockey, and then racing.
We may have been doing Future Stars by then. I'm not sure about that, but anyway, that was another positive. We had some sort of distribution muscle by having all these card shops out there. And if we're talking about '96, that's after the baseball strike, and we weren't the only ones looking for other avenues. I mean, the card shops, we're thinking, hey, what else is out there if they're not going to play baseball? So, but these others, it's hard. It's hard to publish. It's hard to put something in print and then people criticize. I was glad that they bought the magazine and then criticized constructively, because we could work for that. These others, I just think by that time we had a pretty pretty sharp staff. The adding one more publication wasn't the same as having a business just with one publication. It was on top of the other success we had, and so covered our overhead. And the show trips, we didn't have, they'd go to a show, and then they'd also hit the NASCAR show.
So let me ask you this: when you guys started doing the grading, was racing part of the original rollout that you guys did for grading, or did that come later?
I don't remember that. I remember doing grading, and I don't remember that we were doing, Pokemon or anything like that. But any sports cards, my sense is that we were doing it. Now, when we had that first year, when we were, showing people what we were doing, we weren't showing racing cards. It was, but again, if you turn the clock back there, it was still heavy on baseball in terms of the grading. I mean, basketball was coming on, football was coming on, but the big cards were mainly baseball, and that's mainly what we were grading in the beginning. But I don't think we turned Logan. I don't think we turned away NASCAR. We had a library of NASCAR cards, which I own now because a lot of it was, some was sort of mine, and then it was the company's, which became mine. And so I've maintained that. And so, and I've told them if they ever need to look for any exemplars or samples, I'm at their service. But we had a lot of the sets to check for authenticity and stuff like that. Not everything, but enough samples that people could see, hey, this is real. And again, there were counterfeiting some NASCAR cards, but that was predictably some better cards.
Right.
Earnhardt.
Jason?
Well, hey, so stepping away from the price guide aspect of it a little bit, I kind of wanted to see if you remembered some stuff from, those times with the other brands. We had the Maxes and Upper Deck for a couple of years, and then Press Pass, of course. Do you remember any of the other brands, say like a Pacific, for example, that considered racing and that never came to fruition?
Pacific, I mean, I knew those guys pretty well, actually, and they were more of like a family-run company, and I think they studied a lot of things. But being in the Seattle area, I just think
Right.
Mike Kramer, the owner, also did a lot of photos. So I bet he went to some races and checked it out. But there's licensing issues, and by that time,
Definitely.
when they were rolling, it was getting to be a pretty crowded field. And he was a sharp business guy, and he had his hands full with going after the major licenses, and they didn't make it easy for him because he was smaller. But he would have been a good addition. He would have brought some creativity to it. If you look at some of the things Pacific was doing with the die cutting, and they were ahead of their time on some things.
Yeah, for sure. Because there is still a lot of the inserts and stuff that are very popular and still very rare and command a good deal of money, in the major sports. So I think I would agree with you on that. They probably would have done some pretty cool stuff that we'd still like to see today.
But again, I think that the NASCAR people, they don't want to oversaturate the card landscape. And so to add another licensee after
Right.
they already, Upper Deck was really doing well at that time, I think, and they were producing a lot of cards. Max had been the incumbent. Press Pass did a lot of innovative things too. So to add Pacific on top of that, it already was pretty crowded.
So right before you joined, we were kind of talking about F1 and where we saw, a couple of the drivers go on in that market. What have you seen? Like, what's kind of been your perspective the past 2 years or so with F1? Because it's something that I don't think none of us expected, and we kind of hoped it would happen for NASCAR, and then we didn't really get it. So kind of wondering what your thoughts are on that.
It's like 2 years ago, everybody kind of woke up and realized, hey, there's this thing called F1. It's the second most popular sport in the world, or third most popular sport in the world. And hey, they got some cards. and it just drove the price up like crazy. And everything was on Lewis Hamilton as if he were the only guy. And there's other outstanding drivers that were ignored initially, and then, like the hobby does, they swarm, and then they see, oh, that's getting overheated. Well, what's adjacent? What's next? And so they'd go to some other drivers, and then they'd work their way back for other F1 products and other kinds of motorsports. So I'm hoping, Jason, that rising tide raises all boats, because that was a lot of energy coming into racing, and it made, because Indy has never made a mark, really. I mean, IndyCar racing is, that's really cool too. But and they've had cards, but nothing's really been big. So I like it that people are looking for other things. And but when the prices get way stretched out like that, then to me, that's a turnoff for somebody who's coming in. It's exciting that you could get something like that, but when it's a 2-year-old card and it's 5 figures, even, that's. I mean, how many NASCAR cards that are not highly produced, that are hard to find, are worth more than $1,000? There's just not many.
There's not many.
But in the Topps Chrome Formula One, there were instantly a whole bunch.
Which is
that
kind
was
of
a
one
lot
of
of
the
hype.
things. Go ahead, Logan.
No, I just want to make the comment that was a lot of hype.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, hype is spelled marketing. I mean, it was coming not just from in fact, it probably was coming more from the collectors and people, and dealers that had a position in it, as much as it was coming from Topps. I don't think Topps was saying, hey, this, they just put out the cards, and the distributors and the breakers and the dealers, wrote it, and they thought, hey, there's, they just, when something starts to go up, the hobby thinks it's like the arrows in the magazine. They think that means it's going up instead of that it went up. And so it's like if there'd been a magazine for F1, there'd been an arrow up every month for 2 years.
Yeah.
But at some point you say, wait a minute, it's already up pretty expensive. Are there really people that want to pay these huge prices when, for that you could get almost any Dale Earnhardt card, or Jeff Gordon, or Jimmy Johnson, or Richard Petty, or anybody, any of the
we talk about the pricing of NASCAR so much and the affordability, and they kind of pick on me because we'll talk about something and I'll buy it as we're recording. I'll buy it on column C because it's so cheap and affordable, and it's Hall of Fame rookie cards are less than $10 on a regular basis. And that's kind of where we thought, at least I'm trying to speak for everybody, I guess, where we thought with that pricing, even if it goes from 10 to 20, that's a doubling and it's still affordable. So I think that's where we kind of thought something should happen or could happen very soon.
Well, I mean, if you guys just swarm the better cards, the tougher cards of NASCAR of the last 30 years, and you only have 35 years to work with most.
Right.
I mean, it's the last 35, 34 years. So just quietly buy up all the ones. I mean, it could look like an outrageous bargain, and it could create a run. But I mean, it's just, the thing is, there's so many different NASCAR cards over those years. And F1 really mainly had all that demand focused on initially one product. And it just, they forget that there's going to be another product the next year, the next year, the next year. I'm hard pressed to call that a Lewis Hamilton rookie card. I mean, the guy was after his 7th championship or something. I mean, but people, they love the narrative of this is going to be big. And it's like NASCAR, it would have exploded if it was going to. And I think that's faulty logic. There's already lots of fans for NASCAR. If Fanatics turns more sports fans into card collectors, there's already tons of NASCAR fans out there, millions, that go to races regularly, that follow. So everybody's talking about soccer, but NASCAR is the same thing. There's a lot of cards for NASCAR, and if you had twice as many people chasing them, I don't know, not saying the prices would double, but there'd be more action and price movement up. And you would have wished you'd have picked those up, Jason. So that's I would, if I see that stuff in a dollar box, I pick it up.
Right.
It doesn't mean it's going to sell immediately, but it's a good value. By everything you're analyzing, you're being sensible about it. It's not that you're such a passionate NASCAR fan that you can't see straight. You're realizing this compared to these other things. This ought to be a really good deal eventually.
Yeah.
And I mean, would you think that, like with Press Pass and the other ones, that the print runs would be a lot lower than the other sports?
I would say the print, depends on what sport, but no, probably of the major sports. Yeah, probably in every case. But what you have is you had geographic concentration in the distribution. So it might be that in Charlotte, there's just as many of those NASCAR cards as there are baseball or football or basketball, and probably more than hockey. So if people are into NASCAR and they're in those race cities, then maybe they don't think, hey, these are easy to find.
Because it seems like trying to find singles is becoming tough. ComC and Sport Lots and some of the rest of them are starting to get, more ComC has availability, but Sport Lots seems to have been kind of dwindling down. So it's hard to, like you said, 35 years of cards, but it's hard to find singles and stuff. So,
well, I'm eventually gonna put more stuff on ComC. I've got a decent account on ComC, and I've sold some racing there, but I haven't been through. I mean, I'm kind of systematic when I'll go through my stuff and figure, well, I don't want this anymore, and I'll bust a parallel set or something and put it up there. But I haven't done that yet. But you guys are encouraging me that there probably would be demand.
There's definitely demand. It's just not as high as these other sports, but we do see it, and we're kind of a victim of our own. I don't know if I want to call it success or whatever, but we've been hyping, if you want to call it that. Again, if you want to call, we've been talking a lot about like the 1972 STP cards, and we have seen a dramatic increase in those cards. We used to be able to pick them up fairly cheap, and I think like I said, we're a victim of our own success. Now it's hard to find those cards and hard to buy them because they've gotten so expensive.
Well, on ComC, the expense is in listing. You got to pay 50 cents at least to get the card listed. If they were to run a NASCAR special to say, okay, for the next month, if you send in NASCAR cards, we want to be, and this is a strategy I'd like to see them do, we want to be the premier place for NASCAR singles. And so we're going to have half price submissions. You got to give us, you got to put them in numerical order. You've got to make it easy for us that you're not sending us all this obscure stuff that we lose money on. But if you send us some groups of cards that we can post to the site, we'll give you a deal on the submission fees. I'd be all over that, and I'd put a whole bunch of cards. And then they could be the place. And I guess the other aspect that you guys could speak to is that I think there's a lot of people that collect. There's a lot of people that just collect hockey cards, but there's also a lot of people that just collect NASCAR. And so I don't know that there's as much cross. That's one of the reasons we did a different magazine for each sport, because people thought, well, they're just a card collector, they get all the sports. Well, no, people usually focus on one thing. And the NASCAR guys are really loyal. They're really faithful to NASCAR. They probably do collect some other things, but NASCAR a lot of times is their main thing.
Yeah, that's definitely like me. That's the exact kind of collector I am. I collect mostly NASCAR, but I do have like a Wayne Gretzky rookie card. I've got some other odds and end cards here and there, and I still like baseball. So, but my main focus is NASCAR.
Well, ComC would be a good place because you could fill in your sets because I agree with you, Logan. We've talked. I think more of the NASCAR. I mean, I guess you could be a driver and collect cars and drivers, but a lot of them collect complete sets because it's more affordable in racing than it is in some of these other sports. I think.
Oh, it is.
Mm-hmm.
And there's not the exaggerated, price of the rookie. I don't think, at least in the 80s and 90s and 2000s.
Now we are seeing a rise in Dale Earnhardt Senior cards. His rookie cards command a good price. He's become, since he's not been in any issues since 2015.
Yeah.
Everybody's hot on him. All his memorabilia cards, autographed cards, even his, like I said, rookies, and even a lot of the numbered singles that he had back from Press Pass. We're seeing a big rise in those.
Everybody's mad at Teresa, but I mean, if there was more out there and it was an ongoing thing, then I mean, for all the demand is focused on the years that he has cards, and I still think there's a premium should be on cards for when the player or the driver was active, and not after they've retired or after they've passed away. I mean, retrospective cards are okay, but I want to see the guy, the baseball player, football player, whatever, when they're still playing.
Yeah, I agree with that. And that's why his 88 and 89 Max cards are so popular. Plus, he's got an 83 Uno card that's really tough in a 10 of any grade or any company. So those are really, really doing well right now.
Yeah, no, when we talk to the guys at Panini, they are trying very hard to get the licensing for Dale Earnhardt Sr. to be allowed to use them on cards. So we'll see.
Yeah, well, I heard you guys talk about that Teresa wants Babe Ruth type money or something like that.
Well, she I don't think has. To be honest, I believe the Panini has the paperwork with maybe her lawyers, but maybe there's no figure. So I believe that Panini was gonna try to show that they were very interested in that they would go with the same money that they're paying Babe Ruth for his image.
Okay.
I guess to see if they can get a conversation or if they'll still go for it. So,
Well, they've got Funko Pops.
Yeah.
So, hey, Dr. Beckett, I know that you collect racing cards. It's not your primary focus, but do you remember the first racing card that you ever got in your collection?
I think in '88, Max sent me a set or something like that with my name on it.
Oh gosh, that's so cool.
It's like a presentation box or something.
Oh man, yeah.
So I think a lot of they wanted us to do a price guide for NASCAR, and it took us a while, but because we weren't going to do it unless we thought we could do it right. But yeah, no, I've been finding when I put stuff on ComC, which is really exciting to me, is when I sell racing cards. It's not always the best known, most famous drivers. It's driver collectors or somebody's completing a set. It could be a driver that didn't win very many races. They still have a following, and it's not just the family. I don't think it's every driver I think had fans. Otherwise, they get bumped.
Exactly.
They got to win, or they got to have a great fan base. The
fans have some kind of connection to a driver, no matter whatever level.
No matter
and they are diehard, because I was just thinking of TJ. He's a big read source, and so when the sets come out, they're all looking at the checklist to see if any Reed Sorensen's are in there, and so you could enter whatever name, and then they're all fighting for the 101s, which is pretty interesting. So,
well, when I get an order from ComC and it's 5 relatively common cards of the same driver, and he's never won a Winston Cup, or I even never even won a race, maybe, but that's somebody that's a true fan. And if they make me an offer, I'm probably going to accept it. because I want to encourage people to really be true collectors. It's not a flipper.
So when you're saying that, what I usually do is I'll get multiple cards, but I'm using them for through the mail autographs.
Okay.
And so that's a big thing too, to get multiples.
Yeah.
Because I'll usually send a few, and then in the letter let them know that they can keep a couple for themselves.
Well, sports lots would be great for that.
Yeah, I've diminished that already.
I don't think many NASCAR cards.
Well, you're talking about driver collectors and things like that. This is a real random story, but I guess it's been about 2 weeks ago, I was in Chick-fil-A of all places, go figure, right? And I had my Panini Racing card shirt on. I walked in there and this guy just kept staring at me. And he finally asked me, he goes, "What do you know about Panini Racing cards?" I said, "Well, I collect cards. I'm a NASCAR fan." He goes, "You may know my son. His name is Tommy Joe Martins, and he's an Xfinity driver, right? Drives in other series. And he was up. They were in town. They were in Mississippi, but they were in town in Memphis, and they were at that Chick-fil-A. So now, just because of that little quick interaction, I'm a Tommy Joe Martins fan. He's not won a race.
You're also a Sam Mayer fan.
I am a Sam Mayer fan because he signed something for me during COVID when they were here in Memphis, and hardly anybody else did. So now I love him just because of that. So it's funny how the interactions that you have with these drivers or their family or whatever really spawn the interest in that particular driver.
Well, I want to good.
Oh, I was just going to ask him, what was your first race, Dr. Beckett, that you attended? Do you remember that?
Charlotte 600, I think.
Wow.
And
When was that?
In the mid 90s, I think. I don't remember going before then. And then the TMS was created somewhere around in there. I think it was built in the middle of nowhere, out in between Dallas and Fort Worth. And so we had season tickets for that and we had, we went out there for that. But, the problem with that was the parking and it's an all day thing, which I wasn't prepared for that. But, football is like that too. You got to go in the morning and you come back at night and you pay a lot for parking and you got to, it was still happening. We got in the infield and, went to the, it was on a Sunday, obviously, and at least the one in Dallas. I actually did the same thing there. I went to the chapel service. You kind of sit or stand in the back, and all the drivers are up there in the first few rows. When they start praying, every head is bowed. Every head is bowed. They're praying safety, and nobody wants to see bad accidents.
Mm-mm.
And so, that was that. But they're strictly business. So I'm not a big one for asking for autographs or anything, but they're finely tuned athletes with amazing instincts and reflexes.
Definitely. So
Well,
go ahead, Bob.
What's that?
Say, go ahead.
Okay, I was gonna say I have a slide here of a few Beckett covers, and the one to the left, you probably notice, is the first issue.
Yes.
For racing. Was there a lot of discussion on that first issue for that cover?
No discussion about who would be on the cover. I mean, I think that was obvious.
Right.
But the picture, and one of the things that's cool about NASCAR is that, in most of the sports, well, I mean, you have car cards. So
Mm-hmm.
when you tell people you're a card collector, they think, "Are you a car collector?" But Dale Earnhardt's car, or somebody like that, sells for more than a common card. And there are people that collect all the Dale Earnhardt cards, whether they're of him or his car and stuff like that. So to show his car and a photo inset of him made a lot of sense. So I mean, I'm sure I rubber stamped it, but I think the decision was an excellent decision before it even got to me.
And then the other cover I thought was pretty interesting. The one on the right, comparing so that rivalry between Jeff Gordon and Dale Earnhardt Sr. with the Speed Racer and was it Racer X?
Racer X.
Do you remember that cover, or
I
you get a lot of
remember
feedback
it.
on that?
I just think, at some point in there, and it may have been around in there, we started doing more anime, Pokemon, Digimon, Dragon Ball Z, stuff like that. So we had a group within our company, including the graphic design people, that were getting really tuned in to all things, that were, Pokemon, those kind of things. So anything anime or artistic like that. So I think they were having fun with it. But that was, again, I wasn't really involved in that, other than it's creative and makes people think. The subscribers like the covers, but if you have a newsstand copy of a magazine, which we did, we're on the newsstand, you've got a split second to catch the eye of somebody that's walking by the newsstand, and they can't even see the whole cover. They may just get a glimmer, and if you don't have something that make them stop, then you don't get that sale. And so our graphic design people were trying to do things that were, that stood out.
No, that actually is a good issue because there's a big article about the 1988 Max, and I think there's some uncut sheet photos in there. So I don't know. I know we didn't really talk about this, but maybe think of the issues about adding Beckett sample cards, and I think those are really a tough collectible.
Tipping them in. Yeah, that
Yeah.
was only on certain issues, and we had the full cooperation of the card companies that wanted to do it. And you did the little sticky stuff that can. I think those are tough. Those are tough, and we did it in almost all the sports. I don't remember doing it for basketball, but I definitely know we did it for baseball and football a lot. And certain companies really thought that was cool to do that. And they'd say sample on the back, or something like that. So I don't know if people collect them as a complete set, or whether they just get their favorite driver.
Those are super tough because there's one baseball player that I collect that is a common that in 20 years I've never seen for sale. And I check eBay every day, and I get never ever have I seen it for sale.
Who is it, and what? Who? What?
Josh Fogg, baseball.
Josh Fogg. Okay.
Like
2002. What would that be?
I think it was 2003, maybe 2002 also. But from his Beckett checklist, pretty much all I'm missing are these Beckett samples and a couple one-of-ones, and it's driving me nuts. So yes, they are super tough.
Yeah, they're tough in racing too. You just don't see them every day. And I remember back in the day, I could have gotten a whole lot of them, and I thought, well, they'll be around, but not now. I think when people get them, they keep them. They're that tough.
My recollection is that they were delivered to us with the sample imprint already there. That we didn't get raw cards and go get them stamped up and then insert them into the magazine. My recollection is that they came to us with the sample stamp. In fact, there were gold and silver on some of those, saying sample in gold or silver imprint. And so we got them that way. There's different types, but each we get these big box of cards, and we take them to the printer and say insert these. You put them on this little tear out card or something. So you wouldn't find a bunch of them unless you saw a whole bunch of them and pulled them off. I mean, you could unstick them, and I think people did do that. But it'd still be hard to accumulate a whole bunch of them without, because it probably wouldn't be worth buying a bunch of magazines just to get the cards. I don't know if you had a great, if they were all Earnhardts or something, or Jeff Gordons, but I don't think they gave us I think they gave us a random assortment. These were just cards that, like Josh Fogg, I don't think he would be tougher than the other guys necessarily, but not easier either. They didn't. If he's in the set, he probably had as many as the others, but it's just
probably the one that was easier to throw away.
Well, no, but and again, that's the kind of stuff I could find in a dollar box. In fact, it wouldn't even be in a dollar box; it'd be in a quarter box.
Yep.
You wouldn't notice. I mean, most of them are imprinted on the back, and so if you went through the front of the cards, you wouldn't even see it. I mean, some of them have notation on the front, but I will remember that if I'm looking, if I see stuff. Josh Fogg, okay.
Yep.
That's cool.
And why?
Actually, I've done the same because I know how difficult they are, and I've found some that I knew guys collected, and I passed it on to them because I knew how difficult they were. So, yeah, I appreciate that.
That's the kind of stuff I put on ComC. If I get one, I'll put it on ComC, and it's amazing. Sometimes the better players are already there at a low price, but the more obscure players are in effect, Jason, maybe harder because they weren't saved as much. So I feel for you. I will look.
Well, I don't know if you have any questions for us.
I just think that F1 has come on strong. Why isn't Indy? And there's these other races. There's these endurance races and things like that. I mean, why aren't all things motor racing taken off now? Because there's huge fan followings.
Yeah, I mean, drag racing has a big following. IndyCar has a big following. World of Outlaws has a big following. All those different series have big followings, but really only NASCAR and F1 have cards. You don't even have IndyCar cards anymore, or drag racing cards, or anything like that. We're trying to kind of figure out the same thing. Why hasn't anybody picked up these licenses? We would think that that somebody like Panini or Fanatics / Topps or somebody would say, hey, drag racing's an untapped market. Let's grab that, or Indy, because I know Ken would love to have some more new IndyCar cards.
Yeah.
I felt like from the collector standpoint, it was always the rules, because typically you grow up, you play baseball, basketball, football, and then hockey. And it's kind of the way that we consider the big four and then all the other sports. And even for me, I've done this with Val and Logan for a handful of years, and I feel like I still don't know anything from the sport aspect. I know the cards in the industry, and I think it's that entry point where it's not the cash value, it's the understanding what you're watching and what you're following. To me, that's always been what I've thought.
I used to think that, but now I think most people's favorite soccer player is Ted Lasso. So I just think Jason, I just think it needs to be talked about. You just need to have, the people are talking about it, and NASCAR is certainly, very, very popular. And so people, if Fanatics has their way, they're going to have anything that people are talking about that they can sell stuff. They're going to want to sell cards associated with. To your point, that whether people understand the hobby or not, they're going to, or understand even the sport. It's an in thing to do. So
that's F1 to a T. Yeah,
I hope that's what they create. But again, F1 was so focused demand that it got, I think, out of proportion, and that can leave people with a bad taste in their mouth. So you guys be careful what you wish for. If NASCAR has a slow and steady growth in the value and of collectibles and the increase in collectors, then that's a sustainable ride that can be for a lifetime. F1, a lot of people came in. If they cash out, like I said, you compare F1, 1 year's worth of F1 to a whole bunch of years of NASCAR, and it doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't make sense. But what we're seeing now there was that meteoric rise, but now we're seeing a cliff fall right now. There, a lot of prices are really dropping like 80, 90%. So we are seeing that effect happening right now. I guess a lot of people who were hyping it and made their money, or like you said, they're cashing out, and now we're seeing the effects of that.
Well, you got to have true collectors. Otherwise, then, pump and dump that they talk about is usually meant pejoratively in a very short time frame. And you pump, 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 and then you dump it all.
Yep.
But I think a lot of these, it's not that. It's just that they buy the cards. They're really optimistic. They weren't thinking about dumping them. They were thinking, hey, this is going to keep going up. When it quit going up, and then it went down, and then they're thinking, do I buy the dip? And they think, well, maybe I won't buy on the dip. And then it keeps going down. Then they just think, I want to get out, because they weren't true fans in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Because they weren't able to say, hey, I got this great card. I got this great card. This is how much I paid for it. And now I get sick at my stomach thinking that I've lost half the value when I double overpaid.
Yeah, and that's happened quite a bit right now, and we are seeing it.
You have to compare. People want to do the comps, but only the comp against that particular card. And then they're willing to pay more instead of saying, I'd like to pay less, or looking comps. When you're doing a comp of a house in a neighborhood, you need to look at the whole neighborhood. You don't look at just that house, what it sold for. That's one data point. It's probably the best data point, but you've got it. If all the other houses in the block, are for sale or for going for a lot more or a lot less, that factors in.
Mm-hmm.
And there's other blocks that are similar in other parts of the city. And that's what people are doing. When something gets overheated, they're thinking, well, what else is out there? What other house could I buy? And they're going to find out there's some NASCAR, places that are, you can just hit a whole bunch of great cards for the same price.
Yeah. I'm pleased with the slow and steady for NASCAR. I don't want to see it do some kind of exponential rise, like F1 did. I'm good with the way things are.
I'm a get rich slow guy. Build and kind of establish the foundation, and when that happens, that's very sustainable. And when you don't do that, and it's a roller coaster, people, well, roller coasters. What do they do now? They trigger crash warnings on your iPhone.
Oh yeah, down 911.
Well, that's what's happening. You're on that roller coaster, and your iPhone knows something's not right here. You're flying upside down.
Yeah, you're right. I like that analogy. That's a great analogy.
I hate it because it might be a little bit true. Oh gosh,
it's a lot true.
And I don't want it to quadruple and then drop in half. I just want it to go up, a little bit each year.
Mm-hmm.
And some things are going to go up more, big surprise. But when it goes up 1,000% in a year, it just has a lot more room to go down. The same thing with the stock market. If something went up really high, unless it can stay at that level and you could see that there's a reason for it, the earnings justify it, the company's growing, is doing really well, and even then it could still be overheated compared to what it was.
Yeah, if we talk about it all the time. If I could have a time machine and just go back even just 2 years ago, there were F1 vintage cards that were, $5-10 a set, and now you can't touch those for less than $200.
Right.
So I mean, that just goes to show you, the power of how everything was hyped and how it went up so quickly, so fast.
Well, I have less problem with that. If some of these $5 or $10 sets was $5 or $10 when they were issued, and nobody thought about them and nobody chased them, but if several people wanted them, it could be a $200 set. I have a problem with $10,000 cards that were printed yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
A $200 set when there's a lot of like the TCMA minor league cards. If everybody thought, hey, minor league is great, there only were 1,000 of them printed, at the point of origin. So are 500 of them of the sets still around, or 400 or 300? They're all shoulder printed. So, and a lot
Well,
of that NASCAR stuff and early F1 is same thing. They're probably, so I could justify the obscure thing more so than what's being hyped right now. The latest, greatest thing that gets hyped out of shape.
yeah, and we're getting ready to talk about those very things here in our next segment.
Well, it's, you're asking collectors to have restraint, and that is a really difficult thing because there's so much passion that, and you want what people are talking about. I understand that, but if you can have some restraint, then you may miss out today. But if you're right, then the price is going to come down. If you're wrong, then you just got to go buy something else.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Bless you.
Excuse me.
Yep. I was going to say that Tops and, they set up at the Miami Grand Prix and they had cards specifically for that. But in NASCAR and Panini, NASCAR is a different animal than some of the other sports. But over the last, I don't know how many years, we really never seen a track giveaway or anything like that to help like educate or let the fan at the track know that there are cards available. I've been to the NASCAR Hall of Fame getting some, cards autographed when they had some driver appearances, and folks didn't even know that cards were made. So, Panini did try to do some um, advertising. They sponsored one of the drivers, and they had actually a Panini car at the race in the Xfinity series. But it just seems like that hasn't been able to click or grab the attention of NASCAR fans to let them know their cards. So,
Well, Fanatics has a reputation for doing stuff like that, I think. And so they're going to do it. If they buy Panini, they're going to get Panini to do it. And if Panini does not get bought by Fanatics, they got to up their game.
Mm-hmm.
And this would be a way, Val. I think that's a great idea. It's investing in the category, and a lot of these marketing expenses do not pay off the first time you do it. It's a lot of the concept of advertising and marketing is repeat. That's why on TV you'll see, if you're watching a football game, you'll see the same commercial more than once. And so if Fanatics says we're going to lose football, we're going to lose basketball, we're going to double down on NASCAR, we're going to really invest because that's got, and soccer, we're going to really go for it. And that'd be a way to go for it. And they may lose money the first year, which they maybe are unwilling to do, but they could, those kind of sampling things, I think, do work in the long run.
So another thing I thought of was education, that folks don't know the history of some of the cards, and like the 72 STP 83 Uno, and that's kind of where NasCardRadio came out of, to try to help educate your collectors and kind of maybe breathe a little life back into some of these sets, because like you said, there's been 30 something years of cards, and NASCAR cards just are perfect for, visual, the relics, and some of the technology and the autographs. The drivers are always pretty accessible to get autographs. So I think really NASCAR trading cards are one of the better visual sports married with cards.
I'm just saying, one of the things that put breakers on the map and some of these big cards on the map are the bounties. So bounties are a thing now. So if I put $100 bounty on some $10 NASCAR sets that are from 30 years ago, 25 years ago, that's a $10 set, but kind of obscure. And I say, I'll buy up all the ones you send me for $100. I do not think I'd be overwhelmed. I mean, I wouldn't be stupid to put something that was mass produced. It's something that's obscure. I would not be overwhelmed. Then everybody's thinking, hey, that's $100 set. And that's what's happening with F1, is that It's not that they're having bounties. It's just it's becoming known that they're scrambling. They're looking for anything, and if it's and there's just as obscure stuff for NASCAR. These little sets. In fact, it's in many cases it's sets that not only are not talked about, they're we would buy stuff, samples, or a sample set when we'd be at these shows to show in the price guide. But sometimes we didn't put them in the price guide because we didn't have enough price information, and we were a price guide. And so, yeah, I've got a few sets that have never been in a price guide. Well, they might be junk and they might be good. They might be a failed test issue. I don't know. I mean, it was a little bit the wild, wild west with NASCAR. I mean, the licensing very different from the leagues. So it could be fully licensed in the NASCAR sense, and be pretty obscure.
Logan, I think that's what you need to do for the 2019 Donruss Fox announcers set.
Yeah, put a bounty out. That's a great idea. There's a set that came out in 2019 that I think there was 200 print run, 200 sets. It's like what Jason does. I've got an eBay search. I'm looking every day, every night for those cards. I have not seen a set. He's lucky enough he picked up one set, but I cannot find that set anywhere.
Yeah. You've got a better chance of them finding you if you put an extreme bounty on it. For you to look, you're doing all the work. And I just think somebody's going to see, and they're going to think you're stupid, for paying that much, because they're not doing the math. They're not true fans. They may just have it, but it's like, I just did this with, who did I do that with? I mean, it's going to come up in the next episode, but it turns out Mark Hoyle, you guys know Mark Hoyle, the Red Sox collector that's a really advanced collector. He needs one card for his Ted Williams card collection. I heard the episode when he was, and I realized I have the card. He's never seen the card. He needs it. He needs one card in the whole world. And I'm thinking, now I'm really feeling guilty. I've got the one card this guy needs. He's a great guy, advanced collector. He's never seen it. I've got it stuck in a box. I'm not prominently displaying. It's an expensive, really good card. And that's what it's like. And so I didn't think about it until I heard about that. And I think, I think I have that card. Well, that would be the same thing you would have, Logan, if you just said, look, I really want these. And this is the main thing I'm looking for. If you've got them, and you can't say I'll pay top dollar. I think you got to say I'll pay X dollars. Now this guy didn't say I'm going to pay X dollars because I don't really want to sell it. But if I was going to sell it, I'd want him to have it. I'd want him to win it.
Well, that's like years ago. eBay had that site they called Want It Now, and you could post things that you were looking for, and it was kind of addicting to me. And it's that thing of, I might not have anything, but it's cool to see what other people are looking for, and then maybe once in a while I'll have something that I can sell that I wasn't really looking to move, but somebody else wants it and needs it. And that's kind of what you're talking about, just that concept of helping somebody, but also helping them complete a collection and, getting a little money out of it at the same time.
Yeah, except that I don't think those things work as well because they mainly appeal to the collector who is a true collector. It's not the flippers. The flipper would find it and try to get it to you, but if it's something scarce and collectors are not wanting to pay 10 times what something is worth. So, but if you I'd put a bounty out there, Logan, and just say, the other thing you could do, and this is insidious because you're the PSA guy, but if you were to say, and I could do this with BGS, say, I'm paying $1,000 for those PSA 10, or I'd say BGS 10, and there's no chance that anybody's going to contact me with a BGS 10, or I could say any amount of money. It will never happen for something that's 30 years old. It just won't. So, and then when they call you, well, I've got an 8, and you say, well, I'll give you $20 for that.
Right. Yeah. At least get the word out there and get people thinking that they go, wow, these things are worth something.
And if it's
I might as well contact him.
yeah. I mean, and that the bigger dollars, it's so the opposite of the greater fool theory. It's the pride of ownership of paying more for something is somehow a good thing. I want people to know I got a good deal. They want the new breed just wants people to know they got a bad deal.
Yeah, a lot of flexing.
More than anybody else for this. Yeah. Yeah. So I have money to not waste because they're not flushing it down the toilet. They're buying something that I perceive as being overpriced. That it's they're putting a higher value on it because they think it's going to go for more. And it could. And I've been wrong. Everybody's wrong some, and right mostly probably, but wrong enough times to know you're not infallible.
I'm going to do that.
Go for it.
I'm going for it.
In fact, if you put some interesting things on there, I'll dig into my NASCAR stuff. Put a nice big bounty on it, Logan. You want me to tell you what the bounties are and tell you what cards to put bounties on? No, you just do it. Just do it. Make it a big enough list that if it's just one card, I'm going to think like the Mark Hoyle, that was a fluke. And I thought, I think I have that card.
Wow. Yep. I'm on it now.
Go for it.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see where these have landed because they were the 200 print run and given to the Fox sports announcers in NASCAR, and then they gave some to like social media to give away at the tracks, and the rest, what is it, like 10 or 12 of the announcers, and so they all probably got a few to give away, and they're just nowhere to be seen.
Highly collectible. And probably you'd want to get them graded just to encapsulate them and
Yeah, that's what Val's done. He got his set graded.
Yeah, smart.
Yeah, I don't think they've been any graded on any other company. So
nope.
Well, I don't know if we have any more questions for Dr. Beckett.
No, I don't think so. I think maybe it's time to cue the music for King's Court.
Oh, all right. I didn't know he was going to stay. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'd like to get his comments on some of these cars because we were talking about the high-priced F1 cards. You're getting ready to see some.
All right, here we go. Let's cue the music.
All right. All right, this week's King's Court. I've got an honorable mention this week, and I don't know how I missed this card because this card actually ended last week, and we were talking about it. I never saw it. But what this ended on the 26th of September, and it's a 1972 STP PSA 8 Richard Petty rookie card, and they were asking $15,000 for this card. In fact, we know the guy who owns this card, Mitch. He ended up selling it for a best offer of, guess how much, guys?
Is it 8,000?
8,500 for a PSA 8. There's only one card graded higher. There's 1.9 out there.
Yeah, I think we had seen this one actually in person. There's a few little brown spots on the back, but it presents very well with the corners.
Well, remember, this card was raw, and the guy was selling it for $2,000, and then he took it off, and then he put it on.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that? And then he put it for bidding, then he took it off, and he had a buy it now price of $1,000. And I'm not kidding you. I was out riding my mountain bike, and Justin Channels calls me while I'm out riding. He says, this card just went for a buy it now of $1,000. Should I buy it? I said, yes, you should buy it, because I couldn't buy it. I was out messing around. And he said, never mind, somebody bought it. It went that quick. So Mitch, I know how much he paid for it. He paid $1,000 for it, and he did well with it. So kudos to him.
Very nice.
So Anyway,
Love
Dr.
seeing some of that 1972 STP love for that set.
Yeah, Dr. Beckett, that's one of the we call that one of our NASCAR glamour cards. We got that from you, calling cards glamour cards.
That is. And you guys have popularized it. You guys have talked it up.
We have talked it up, and like I said, we're a victim of our own success on that one. All right, so next up is our Joker of the Week. This was on the 9th of October, 2005 Futera Grand Prix memorabilia card of Ayrton Senna. Did you guys even know there was a memorabilia card?
I remember seeing, I guess it was last week. There's some autograph cards and memorabilia. Yes.
And it's a race used tire out of 295.
There's 169.
Yeah. And check this out. It went for $24.99. Buy it now.
Wow.
Somebody went click and bought it.
Wow.
So there you go. There's some of your high priced F1 stuff right there.
Dr. Beckett's looking through the dollar boxes and see the memorabilia card.
See too many of those. I would.
Yeah, but that's a heck of a card. It's pretty nice. It's kind of weird looking how they did it. I guess they just didn't know how to do the memorabilia cards back then, and it looked a little crude.
Yeah, it looks like it's just cut out and kind of.
Yeah.
Let me get a good picture there. Yeah, so because you can see, around the treads there at the bottom, it's not flush with the card.
Well, I'm sure that was our first attempt.
Yeah, they only made that 2005 and then I think 2006, and that was it.
Yep, that was it
for F1.
All right, so next up is our Jack of the Week. This was also on the 9th of October. 2020 Topps Chrome F1 Landau Calrissian Norris. It's a gold refractor out of 50. It's a BGS 9. And it went out for bidding. It went for $988.76 with 22 bids. So,
yeah, number 40 out of 50.
I feel like gold refractors from all the sports have become extremely popular in the past couple of years.
I would agree with that.
They're limited but attainable.
There's certain colors that are better than the serially numbering that they have, that people just think are more attractive.
That's a nice looking card with the yellow gold and that blue uniform and light blue there.
Yeah, some good contrasting colors there. So yeah, that was a pretty cool card.
And almost $1,000 with 22 bids.
Yeah, so I think that's still a little high priced, but it's better than some kind of 5-figure card. But anyway, let's move on to our Queen of the Week. This was on the 6th of October. Look who it is. Hailie Deegan, 2019 Prime Clear Vision autograph. It's a true 1 of 1 it says on card auto, which it is. And it went also for a buy it now price. Somebody else went click and bought it for $899.99. So somebody really likes Hailie.
Wow. Almost $900 for 2019 Prime.
Yeah, Dr. Beckett, we're as far as NasCardRadio is concerned, we are kind of on hold with her right now till she has some better results. So we're not buying her card right now. But apparently some people still are. So
yep.
For the diehard collectors, like we talked about, she's doing her first Xfinity race this weekend in Las Vegas.
Yep, she sure is. So we'll see how things go this weekend.
Yep.
All right, next up, King of the Week. This was on the 10th. Yeah, check this card out. This was on the 10th of October, 1999 Press Pass Signings NASCAR Dale Earnhardt in gold. And it went out for bidding, and I think it actually probably is undervalued. It went for $1,200 with 28 bids.
So there's 100 of the gold, and this is 96 of 100. That's a beautiful autograph.
It is a beautiful autograph.
Yeah, that's one of the nicest cards I think we've shown. It's up there with that Upper Deck one.
Agreed. Yeah, I mean he did a fantastic job because you know how those gold markers they dry out. So the fact that it's not real streaky and it's very solid
Right.
really makes that card pop.
So that was 28 bids. It wasn't a buy it now.
Yeah. If I had the money, I might have bid on that, but I just don't have that kind of money right now. I got a wedding I'm helping pay for.
That's really impressive. That's a really nice looking card.
Yeah,
I think somebody got a good deal on that.
yeah. So I think it was undervalued. I think whoever bought this got a great deal. All right. So next up, this is second to the last. Our ace of the week, 101, is on the 6th of October. And look who it is. It's 101. And it's not the same one we had last week, Jason. That was a Donruss from 2022.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
This is a 1 of 1 Ty freaking Gibbs. 2021 Prism Gold Vinyl 1 of 1. It's in an SGC holder.
It was SGC last time, wasn't it?
Yeah, the other one was too, remember? And it went for like $554.54.
Makes me wonder because you don't see that very often with NASCAR racing being SGC. I wonder if it was the same seller.
It could be. It very well could be. Could be somebody who's speculated on Ty Gibbs and then had him graded. But they were asking $1,000 for this card. And it wasn't far off. It went for a best offer of $800.
Wow.
Yeah. $800.
That's a 21. His rookie's in 20. This is his first Prism card.
Mm-hmm.
So Dr. Beckett, this is one of the, I don't want to say young guns that's coming up. He'll be running in Cup next year, replacing Kyle Busch and his Coach Gibbs' grandson.
Right.
And he's got plenty of talent to back it up.
He does have a lot of talent. So we're all excited about him. He's doing well. We hope he can continue on his rise of, in success. So we're hoping he does well next year in Cup. And I guess some people are speculating. But yeah, I thought that was a cool card. That's probably about where it needs to be, I would think, $800 or so. All right, last but not least, our Royal Flush, which is the highest price card of the week.
I don't know where it went. I thought I had it.
I'll give you a second. I'll talk about it while you're getting the link.
Huh. All right. Let me grab that real quick. I know I had it, but.
Yeah. This was on the 9th of October, and it's going to be a 2021 Topps Dynasty F1 Lewis Hamilton Jumbo Patch Auto card. And actually, this card went for under 5 figures. It was a BGS 9.5/10. I think the auto was a 10, and the card is out of 10. And it went out for bidding, and it was $8,500 is what it went for. Here we go. It went for $8,500 with 39 bids. And again, it's got that Lewis Hamilton scribble on there that we talk about. So Jason is is in our patch location department for NASCAR Radio.
I'm on it.
So Jason's looking to see where that patch is on his uniform.
So it was 39 bids and $8,500.
Yeah.
That's for 2021. That's not even 2020.
No, that's 2021 Dynasty. And of course, Dr. Beckett, we all know he's the darling of F1 right now.
Yeah, but I'd take 7 of the Earnhardts.
Absolutely.
A flash.
Yeah,
that's what we say here all the time. We talk about, I mean, how many of Dale Earnhardt or Jeff Gordon autographed cards, high-end cards, could you buy for this $8,500? I would much rather have Earnhardt or Gordon or Richard Petty and those guys all day long compared to this card. I totally agree.
Well, I mean, you're betting on whether the hobby is going to get more and more international. And it probably will.
Mm-hmm.
NASCAR is pretty distinctly American, maybe North American. F1 pretty global, I think. So, but still, it doesn't. Yeah, Earnhardt. much tougher autograph. I mean, Lewis Hamilton's going to have more one-of-ones next year and the year after and the year after. And, one-of-one, it's one-of-one for this particular thing, or one of 10. And he's got one of 50s. He's got one of 25s. He's got, you add it all up, he's going to have a lot of good cards because that's the way they're building these products now.
Yeah.
All right, pal. Turn that card over. Zoom in on his chest underneath the EOS. It's
right
that
there. Yep.
there.
Right
Yep.
there.
Yeah.
Yep. That's where it's from, right there.
Yep.
Way to go, Jason.
So that's a premium. It's over his heart. That makes it a one-of-one.
Yep.
Yep, you're right. It's an eBay one-of-one. No
eBay
doubt.
one-of-one, yeah.
And it is facing the correct direction.
Yeah, Jason hates it when the patches are upside down or at the wrong angle. He really hates that. I kind of hate it too, but Jason really does hate it. So that's it for this week's King's Court.
All righty.
Thanks, guys. I got to go because I got a wife that's saying it's bedtime. So
yeah, it's getting late.
It says it's bedtime. It's bedtime. So it means come to bed.
Well, thanks for being on here with us.
Yes, thank you for joining us tonight.
Keep up the great work. It's fun to participate with you guys.
Enjoyed having you.
And I
really have.
I hope NASCAR continues to trend. It doesn't have to be the expense of F1. It could be they're opening doors, and you guys are going to just march right in. I hope that happens.
That's fine.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. So,
long show, fellas.
We're used to it. Ty Gibbs, there were 8 SGCs that sold on eBay, and one seller had like 3 or 4 of them. Another seller had 2, and another seller had 2, and then there was somebody's been buying. So it wasn't as drastic as I thought for one person, because NASCAR is one thing and SGC is another. Like it's its own, category almost, but it's that cult following. So surprised me, but there's a couple of people doing it. So
that's cool.
All right. Well, I guess we'll wrap up.
Yeah. Freaking Gibbs, skid marks.
Thank our sponsor, Panini America.
Thanks to Dr. Beckett.
Yep. All right, guys. I will catch everybody next week.
And if you've listened this long, thank you very much.
Yes.